Welcome to the Half Yard Line. I'm Tim.
I am Luke.
And Luke, we have just completed yet another week of NFL football.
Completed it, Tim. We have nothing left to achieve in week 7. We've done it all. Everything that can be done has been done.
Well, and you notice I didn't say week 7 because as I was doing the intro, I couldn't decide if we had completed week 7 or we're about to start week 7 or completed week. I have no idea.
No, we've completed week 7.
Well, we've reached that point of the season, though, where how many games have my team played? How many games has everybody played? Have I had my bye?
You got the mismatch. And also the weirdest thing is week 8, there's no buys, which is really weird.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you not know that? Yeah, there's no buy. There's 0 buys this week. So all the teams are back, which is really weird. I only
Has that ever happened before?
I didn't look it up, and I probably should have before revealing this fact. But the reason I know is because I was trying to engineer a fantasy football trade, and I was looking around for people who had buy problems, and I was like, why does no one have
a buy problem?
And the answer is because no one's on a buy. So there is not a buy to be had in week number 8 of the NFL season.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've looked this up. He is absolutely correct.
I think there's no buys in week 12 as well, I want to say. There's another week later in the season amid other buys where there aren't any. I think it's week 12. Because they've added
the
extra.
No buys.
There we go. So a couple
there
of
are 3 games on Thursday, a game on Friday, a bunch of games on Sunday.
There's 3 games on Thursday.
It's Thanksgiving, bro.
Oh, right. That makes a lot more sense. You can't just say, I thought we were going to have a triple header of like all the worst teams. Jeez.
The Thursday night package does tend to be a real bad package.
Yeah, flushes. All
San Francisco,
the
Seattle
through.
is Thursday night on
game.
Thanksgiving. So that's a good one.
That's a good one. Chris and Mike getting business done on NBC, presumably. For that one, I would have thought, because they usually do that, right? The NBC.
Presumably, yeah. I mean, because they do the It's a Sunday night football on Thursday rather than Thursday night football.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They call it Sunday night football, but it's on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm currently on the television front, Tim, just debating my team. The Titans, as I'm sure everyone who's listened to this knows by now or knows me, appear to be terrible. And on Sunday, we're playing the Atlanta Falcons in a game that I'm not sure will actually be televised on public health grounds. I'm not sure there's
it's competing with the Republican speaker race.
Yes,
people who want to cover the Republican speaker race.
It's like drain circling Olympics.
Ooh, bad.
But so for those watching on the tube, I have my Kevin Byard jersey behind me in respect to the mayor of Murfreesboro, who has been sent off to play for Philadelphia, much like I guess all of our players will henceforth be. And the team's terrible, so it's not a banner week for the old Titans. And you know what is the most annoying? And I will cease bitching about my own team.
No, please.
When something like this happens, a guy goes down or a guy gets traded or there's some sort of flipping of the mentality, right? Which I know Steelers fans aren't that used to, but you think the team's going to be good, the QB gets injured or something, and then you have to
readjust. That happened to me 3 years ago.
Yeah, but you got to readjust to being bad.
Yeah,
week 2,
your starter goes down or whatever. Yeah, and you're like, uh-oh.
And you're like, okay, I can reset. But then what you want to have is something to look forward to the weekend after, and we're playing the Falcons. That's my reward. Thank you for that. And we may be playing both our non-Ryan Tannehill quarterbacks as well, apparently, said Mike Vrabel today. So, I mean, God only help.
I'm sorry.
All Titans
fans. Hit me with that again. What is Tannehill's done?
So Mike Vrabel in his press conference today, Ryan Tannehill's injured his ankle again. And he said they're going to, keep an eye on him or something till the end of this week, which means if he can walk, he's probably going to play, which is a terrible idea for the franchise at this point because we need to move on. And he said if he can't play, both the other quarterbacks will play, is what he said. So Malik Willis and Will Levis to see the field on Sunday.
So we just treat it like a preseason game and go halvesies or what?
Yeah, I mean...
Just like Taysom Hill
packages. Someone made the good point of saying, "Hey, maybe it's just the coach doesn't want to give away his hand, on the day."
Yes, because the teams are really concerned about which one it might be.
It's exactly what they said. Yeah, Malik Willis keeping coordinators up nights, but not defensive coordinators, more offensive coordinators. I think at this stage. But
I will tell you, Desmond Ridder, Atlanta's quarterback, 6 touchdowns, 6 picks on the year. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. Ryan Tannehill, 2 touchdowns, 6 picks on the year. That's worse.
And he's not even going to play.
That's much
So
worse.
anyway, that's quite enough about that. But we're talking about bad QB play. QB's, Tim, going to be a topic on today's pod.
Before we get there, I was gonna. You can, So
yeah, you can
follow us on the socials at Half Yard Line Pod. We always like to make sure one of us gets it in there because we get carried away. At Half Yard Line Pod on the socials, whatever socials you like, we're out there. On the good socials, the bad socials. If you're left leaning, right leaning, center leaning, we're on all the socials. To be fair,
we should be clear, we are not on Truth Social. So don't look us up on that.
That's a different kind of leaning. That's like way leaning. Though I got to be careful because, well, it doesn't matter. Anyhow,
we're not on Blue Sky either because you have to get an invite. I did try and get us on that, but you have to be invited. So
if you're out there on Blue Sky, shoot us an invite and we will join Blue Sky.
Need a code. Give me a code.
So when I say we're on all the socials, I guess I mean we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, and we're on, X, and we're on Meta. And so hit us up on those things. Threads. Well, Meta owns Threads.
That's true.
So YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, hi, how you doing? Thanks for that. Or on your podcast app of choice. This was an audio platform when it began. We are still committed to the podcast format. Hopefully most of you are running around there on your lawnmower or whatever it is you do while you listen to your podcasts, enjoying the afternoon, listening to our voices serenade you as we discuss all the happenings of the NFL. So check us out on the socials. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on your podcast app. Shoot us an email if you still do that sort of thing. We do have a Gmail account at halfyardlinepod@gmail.com. There's no @symbol in front of that, just halfyardlinepod@gmailcom.
It's good clarification.
We'd like to interact with all you guys in that way. For the kids' email, it's sort of like I don't know. It's like instant messaging, but slower.
It's like computer paper. There you go. Right. So, but yes, do all of those things. But for today, as mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about quarterbacks, not the wham bam superstars. Those of you who are out there who are long-term THYL listeners will know that we prefer to eschew the mainstream talking points. We're not going to talk about Brock Purdy against the Vikings. We're not going to talk about any of that. What we're going to talk about,
even though he's finally starting to look maybe not like the MVP, and we really want to talk about that.
Yeah, the rise of the backup, Tim. We are, as mentioned, through 7 weeks of this NFL season. It's been backups galore. Last week in particular was a notable week for backup QBs coming in place of injured starters, delivering wins, delivering, I'm not going to say impressive performances across the board, but a lot of winning performances by backups this year. And we're just going to touch on it because it felt like there were a lot last week. I mean, in teams that played, that the Giants, the Browns, the Cardinals, the Colts, the Raiders, and the Bears all starting their non-frontline QBs, and then the Jets is the other team who are obviously not starting their QB1 because Aaron Rodgers is down for the season, ? We'll find out later in the year if they're still relevant. But there's been some questions coming up, Tim, around the backup quarterback, around, should this guy be starting instead of the regular guy, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll get into all that. But I just want to hit you with a couple of quick stats before we dive into the specifics. Do you want to guess how many quarterbacks
another trivia question.
started? It's very quick, this one. It's not going to be name every quarterback that started a game last year. Be here all day because there were a lot. Do you want to guess how many different quarterbacks did start a game last year in the full season, full 2022 season? How many starting
so there's
quarterbacks?
32 teams. So if every team had one, it would be 32.
That's correct. It's good math.
I would guess there were at least 10 teams who had to play a backup, and there's always a Brownsy team out there who's playing 4. So my powers of deduction would suggest something like 52.
The correct answer is 68.
Whoa!
So
started?
Yeah, started a game. 81 quarterbacks attempted at least one pass. But 68 started a game. I'll give you a few names, Tim, just to show you how fast the NFL wheel turns. These are some guys who started games last year, at least one. How about David Blau?
Sure.
How about Chris Streveler? Remember Chris Streveler?
I do remember both of those, actually.
Sam Ellinger, or Ellinger,
Nope.
Never worked out how to say that. Colt McCoy started games last year. Of course, your friend of mine, pride of the Hilltoppers, Bailey Zappi, started game last year. Kyle Allen.
68 quarterbacks started for their team.
Game.
The average NFL team had 2.13.
Tim, I think it's very disrespectful to guys like Jeff Driscoll, Trace McSorley, Anthony Brown, who played against the Steelers.
Absolutely.
Trevor Siemian, Davis Webb, Bryce Perkins. We're talking about,
Bryce Perkins?
Yeah, for the Rams.
No offense to Bryce Perkins. What?
Yeah.
Never
so
heard
anyway,
that
the point being, there are a lot. So this year, again, 68 quarterbacks started a game last year, which is a hell of a lot. This year through 7 weeks, we're up to 42 already. So we're on a torrid pace. Already 10 more quarterbacks than teams, and we're only through 7 games. I mean, some of the guys that have already started, Andy Dalton, Aiden O'Connell, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and of course, what other quarterback has only started 1 game, Tim? Aaron Rodgers. So he's on that ignominious list as well. So I just wanted to hit you up with the crazy stat of that from last year, because I thought it was pretty spectacular. But yeah, we're well on the way to eclipsing 68 already, so I'm looking forward to some more randos. I like a good rando QB starting late in season, so we'll find out if we see more
I don't
of them.
mind a rando QB starting late in the season. I am shocked that there were 68 last year. I'm still stuck on the response there. 68. That's just a lot. It's a lot.
It is a hell of a lot. And they're even more on the way this year, seemingly. And a bunch of them started last week and got some W's, Tim. So I don't know where you want to lead us on this foray through the backup quarterback forest, but there was a hell of a lot of talking points from backup QBs starting games, and certainly last week and over the course of this season there have been quite a few.
There have, and I think, Luke, there's a couple of ways to think about this, right? Most of the time your backup quarterback's going to go in because your starting quarterback is injured. And I think that's at least nominally the case for all of the backups out playing today. No one has benched their starter yet purely on performance.
Correct.
But there's sort of a range, if you will, on the starter is out and it is his job cemented unequivocally. And then there's the starter is out and, if the backup comes in and plays really well, maybe we don't take the ball away so much. And then there's the starter is terrible, and you know what? That he's hurt, maybe he's not the worst thing in the world. Gives us a chance,
or in the case
to
of
bench him without benching him.
Yeah, or in the case of my Titans, the quarterback's getting old, the team's not in contention. Give the rookie a chance. A lot of the times now we see rookies just start straight out the gate. We're old enough to remember a time when rookies would sit for a year or 2 years, even
or 4.
Apart from Jordan Love, bit of an exception there, but
and Aaron Rodgers before him.
Yeah, exactly. So in this day and age, it seems weird to have a quarterback who doesn't start. But yeah, I would fully expect and hope that if the Titans continue to stink, that Will Levis comes in, starts some games, you get some evaluation, you get some tape. Steelers did it with Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. A lot of teams do that. So that's the other example. But I don't think any of these teams fit into that category right now.
No, the Titans might next week, but not as yet.
Apparently, we're starting 2, so that'll be a record.
Well, it will be interesting to see who gets the first one. So it's officially the QB win-loss goes to that.
Sorry, this is a sidebar, but do you remember?
Yeah, sidebar.
Do you remember years ago?
Yeah,
Arizona having a platoon quarterback thing for a few weeks. Do you remember that? It was Ken Dorsey. I can't remember who the actual starter was. It was Ken Dorsey. Tim Rattay. Do you remember Tim Rattay? Played for the Niners. He was came in to just run the 2-minute drill at the end of the half, and that was it. So I'm hoping a team will wheel out some kind of wacky shit. And there have been several colleges
who tried this, right? They have 2 quarterbacks they like, and they try to play them both because they don't want them to quit.
And it literally never ever works.
If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, right?
That's the adage.
The old adage. Well, look, so if we think about the one end of that spectrum, I mean, Aaron Rodgers never had an opportunity to demonstrate whether he was any good or not. But I think it's pretty clear if Rodgers shows back up, he's probably starting.
Yeah, even if the Jets aren't very good, I imagine he's still going to play.
Yeah, and if they are good, I mean, well, let me ask the question this way. Let's start with the Jets, and we're not going to spend much time on the Jets. We talked a lot about the Jets this year. At what point does Zach Wilson get that job? Like, if they win the rest of their games, if they're in playoff contention, if they make the playoffs, like, do you think there is a point at which Zach Wilson has proved himself and they don't go back to the veteran? Have they invested too much money in capital? They got to go back. What's your take on sort of Zach Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers? That's a unique one, but let's not spend a ton of time on it.
Sure. If you want my honest assessment, it's a bit hot takey, but I think Zach Wilson will never be the Jets starter ever again, officially speaking.
Okay.
Once Aaron Rodgers comes back, unless Zach Wilson suddenly becomes something that he has shown no evidence of being, which is a star quarterback under center, that he's just not ever going to be the starter for that team. He had a chance at it. It didn't pan out. He's come in. He's come out. He's been benched. He's come back. He's come back in this season. The hope was, Rodgers' tutelage or example would have improved his play. He kind of looks like the same guy. Unless he goes on an absolutely torrid run, which I don't see happening, frankly, Rodgers will come back and start. and that will be it. And when Rodgers' contract finishes at the end of next season, right, they've got him for 2 years. That was part of the agreement for him arriving. Zach Wilson's rookie contract will be up. His rookie option's not going to be picked up, and they'll be on to drafting somebody else. He's not ever going to be the star in New York, is my assessment. So this season, if Rodgers comes back, Rodgers is going to play. Next season, Rodgers is going to play. And beyond that, I think Zach Wilson will be looking for a new team in a couple of years' time. It brings me no great joy to say that. A man who certainly has made some excellent off-the-field headlines with his pursuit of the middle-aged. But, on the field, the abstract quarterback, as we christened him last year, certainly just seems like...
Can I tell you
he's
my
going through
favorite
the
fantasy
motions.
football team name related to that?
Please.
There is a team in our league called that drafted him. The Jets fans are the owners, and they refer to their team as Throwing Bombs and Banging Moms, which I just
I heard that before.
I thought that was well
for those
done.
Just for the
Throwing
one
bombs and
person
banging
listening to this
moms.
who's not familiar with this story, there was a rumor before the draft that Zach Wilson was romantically entangled, as Jada Pinkett Smith would say, with one of his mother's friends. To which there was many a high five was exchanged in locker rooms around the nation, I'm sure, at that particular news. But yes, so no, that's my take on the Jets.
Well, leaving that where it is, and it's interesting that you say that. I actually think there's a slight chance that that's not the case. Obviously, they've invested heavily in Zach Wilson as well. They wanted him to be the guy. He obviously has looked challenged. Very few quarterbacks turn it around, and I'm not saying he will.
Certainly to that degree, it's unlikely, it would seem.
There is this interesting case, though, to be made for the quarterback who, for whatever reason, the team is winning or playing better or more enthused. I don't know what drives it. I don't have an answer.
It's not analytics. It's just a feeling, right?
It's something. And you look at Cleveland's situation right now, and to me, this is key. P.J. Walker, by every statistical measure, is a worse quarterback than Deshaun Watson, even since he came back sort of from the suspension.
Yes.
If you look at his rating, which is not a great thing, but if you look at his rating, Deshaun Watson's not been great, but he's been in the 80s, and PJ Walker's been in the 30s. I mean,
I don't think PJ Walker's thrown a touchdown yet, right? Since he came back to start for Cleveland, I think he's actually thrown a touchdown this season. He's thrown a lot of balls to the other team. 0 touchdowns
this season. He's thrown 3 picks. He has 15 first downs, so good for him on that. But my point is, he's not played well. You wouldn't look out there and go, oh, I know we gave Deshaun Watson $250 million, but we found our guy.
Yeah,
like, this isn't San Francisco.
Right. He's been well picked. Right.
They traded for 3 first-round picks to go get Trey Lance, and then it turns out maybe Brock Purdy's the guy. We'll just have to figure out how to, take our medicine, take our losses. So it's nothing like that, obviously. But if you look at the team's performance with PJ Walker in the game, it is as good or better than it was when Deshaun Watson was out there. Deshaun Watson went 2-1 with wins against your woebegone Tennessee Titans and early against Cincinnati when
Burrow was injured.
Burrow was not moving at all effectively, and they lost, to the Steelers. So that's not good. That's not. I mean, listen. Obviously, beating the Titans is better than not beating the Titans. Beating the Bengals is better than not beating them. But those were not good teams.
Not achievements, you wouldn't say.
No, Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in and lost badly to the Ravens. But since Walker's come back in, team's 2-0. They're 4-2 on the season. They scored 39 points this week.
Yeah, without him throwing for a single touchdown. That's. I don't know if that's
the
the
first time. He only threw for 178 yards.
It's pretty much. I mean, that's kind of stat line you would expect to hear from like a game in the 1950s, right? There were 500 yards of offense and it was 450 yards of rushing. It's that kind of stat line. It's a real throwback, but they won the game somehow.
Yeah, somehow. But at the end of the day, look, here's the deal. They're not winning because of him, but they're winning.
No,
they didn't score those points because of him, but they scored the points. So I was talking to a friend about this weekend. Is it they're focused even more on the run because they know they don't have a quarterback, and therefore the play calling allows you to lean into what you're good at? Is it the team knows they've got to pick it up because the guy's not back there? Or in this more kind of dark version of that, the team hates Deshaun Watson so much they don't want to try while he was back there, but while P.J. Walker's back there, they've got a different attitude. Any take on where Cleveland falls in that spectrum for you?
Yeah, I certainly think it's an interesting case. I mean, Cleveland has had no luck with quarterbacks since time immemorial, basically.
Talked about that last week.
Yeah, we sure did in great detail. By the way, did you see Bernie Kosar watch the Browns game with Taylor Swift in the most bizarre meeting of the minds I think I've ever seen?
I did not know that.
Before T Swizz headed off to the Chiefs game, she was watching the Browns game with Bernie Kosar for some reason. I don't know how that happened, but I'm all
maybe they're dating too. Here, can we start the rumor here on the pod?
I'm here for it.
She's with Bernie.
Sorry, I'm sidebarring a lot, but this is related. I looked up Taylor Swift's. I was like, how rich is how rich
She's
is
very
Taylor
rich.
Swift? Except her net worth is $740 million.
No, it's not. I bet you $100 it's at least $1 billion. I don't care what the internet says.
You're going high, yeah. That was the Forbes estimate, but
they
my
were
point
saying
being,
this tour generated $4.6 billion.
Anyway,
Billion.
So she's got more money than Bernie Kosar and
Yeah,
has had fewer concussions. So good for her. But the Browns, I think, on the football field in 2023, to wrestle this back, which I wrestled off track, I just don't really know. The takeaway for me is that the team is pretty good, right? The quarterback
must be.
The defense is good, apart from weirdly against Gardner Minshew. But the defense has been extremely good. The running game is built on an extremely good offensive line. So we've talked about the quarterback. I mean, Nick Chubb's out for the season. Nick Chubb is probably the best player on the entire offense. You've had the right tackle.
That injury was rough.
And you've had the right tackle go down for the season as well, right? So they've lost some key pieces. Jerome Ford's come in, played well. Now he's injured. Now you've got Kareem Hunt's coming in. Pierre Strong. Like, they'll probably still generate a good running game. I do think that Stefanski has had to adjust to playing with a quarterback who is not very good. They spent a lot of last season with Jacoby Brissett, who was okay. Like, he wasn't spectacular, but he wasn't bad. He was Jacoby Brissett. Watson came back, looked rusty as hell. You have to kind of play a conservative approach. Be timely with your shots. Don't ask him to do too much. And you figured, okay, he's getting his feet back under him, hasn't played for 18 months, 2 years, whatever it was.
Right.
So I just think organizationally and schematically on offense, they've adjusted to this. And I feel like the plan was keep it like this until Deshaun remembers how to play quarterback, right? And then we'll loosen the straitjacket around the offense.
Right.
But what's happened is that the offense, as it is just about good enough to get the job done because the rest of the team is good. But they haven't been able to loosen the straitjacket because Deshaun Watson's been terrible and PJ Walker's been even worse. Now, the weirdest thing about this whole situation is this injury, non-injury, that just throws a weird shadow across this entire thing. Deshaun Watson came out of this game having thrown an absolutely disgraceful interception, which the guy mercifully did not catch. If you're a Browns fan, then he hit his head on the turf, concussion evaluation, then he wasn't concussed, then it was a shoulder thing. Yeah. Then Stefanski said he held him out for, protective reasons.
I want to make sure he's safe next week.
Then he's gone for a scan today and he's got some sort of strain. So it's all a bit nebulous as to why he's not playing. Watson said he felt like he could have played. It's all been a bit Cleveland, frankly. So to answer
little
your
downtrodden
question,
franchise index, if you will.
They are writing new chapters every year. But it's a team that's winning a couple of games. Frankly, coaches that's all they give a shit about. Did I win? Did I not win? If PJ Walker is doing enough stuff, even if it's wild horse quarterback play, and you're happy with it, then you can kind of live with that. But Watson is going to have to come back and play. I just can't see a situation where they don't. And like you said, it's not like PJ Walker's lighting it up. So you put him back in, you take your lumps. If you're going to be crap under center, and it's the same difference, you may as well just have the guy out there that at least you're spending the money on so it looks better for the franchise.
Yeah, but to your point, and this is the one, and we're bloviating a little bit on Cleveland here. We won't go team by team through these. There's some buckets. We'll dump them in. But you mentioned the injury, and I think it's key. This is a team that had the opportunity to go back to Deshaun in this game and didn't. And if you read the tea leaves, and I'm a big tea leaf reader in the NFL, right? If you want to know what's actually going on, read the headlines and then think about what the headline is designed to make you think and think the other thing, because the headlines are all baloney.
Yeah,
and so
leaked by teams, leaked by players, leaked by front officers.
Yeah, they are looking for injuries to assign to Deshaun Watson. You think about Bill Belichick. When's the last time Bill Belichick went and found an injury for a player?
Well, he does it before the game.
Never. He might come out and say...
He does the injury report, right?
Yeah, he might say a guy's banged up, right? He's got it questionable with a knee. But you never hear anybody coming out and saying, oh, yeah, Brady went for a scan and there's a little nick in the... No one or a strain or a grade 2 strain or whatever. I mean, it's all... Yeah. It's tight-lipped. It's he's working on a shoulder. We think he'll be ready to go, or he'll be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, you got to say something. So he's either probable, questionable, doubtful, or off the report. And it's interesting to see when teams start doing this. And you saw this. I'm trying to remember. There was a player who had some personal issues out west at the beginning of the season and was kind of on and off the injury. Is he hurt? He not hurt? He's not here. And you start seeing sort of, well, it's not a knee, it's a ankle. It's not an ankle, it's a foot. Well, it's not a foot, it's a toe. It's really the toe and the foot and the ankle turned into a neck. Like they're looking for something
right. I see what you're saying.
To assign it to. And it's almost you're trying to come up with a way, I believe, to put Deshaun on the bench without losing face with Deshaun so you can get him fixed. Whatever you think, you don't want him out there ruining his confidence. You don't want him out there ruining his career. You want him hurt, which explains the poor play up to now. And God, he's been muscling through it. Thank goodness he tries so hard or we wouldn't be able, whatever.
Team first guy.
You can come up with a narrative that says, oh man, he was really working for us. And then you bring him back after you fix whatever you think, get it to the bye and get out of the bye, like whatever it is for Cleveland. And that's a scary place to be when your backup is playing like this guy's playing. And if you're that low on confidence on the guy you paid $250 million to guaranteed, you're paying him whether he plays or not. You're paying him whether you like him or you can't cut him. There's no trading him. There's no
nope.
Guys, this is we talk about the salary cap a lot. Well, you can manipulate the salary. You cannot manipulate the salary cap on a fully guaranteed 5-year deal.
They are locked in, and it's gonna go down. Almost certainly, it's the worst contract in NFL history at this point. It would be a shocker if it's not.
Yeah, he would need to absolutely come. They would need to win a Super Bowl almost, but certainly need to play good football. And right now he's not. So it'd be interesting to see where the Browns go with it. I thought that one was worthy of a little extra conversation just because it's so unique. You got the contract situation.
And to your point, they're in a close game, right? Just to tie a bow on your point. They're in a close game too. So if it was a blowout and you say, listen, we're beating the brakes off the Colts, we don't need to put him back in. This was 39-38, and it came down to the last drive and the last play, basically, and you still didn't put it back in. So, yeah, to your point, there is something telling about that, I think, as well.
Yep, and so we'll switch now to a little bit of a different flavor, and that is backups who have come in and played reasonably well, and for different durations, we'll talk about that in a minute, that may be putting pressure on the starter accidentally. And so I talk about Tyrod Taylor for the Giants, and we'll talk about Josh Dobbs for the Cardinals. Kyler obviously been out all season. Josh Dobbs got called in the week before the season started, spent the whole preseason on somebody else's roster. He shows up on Thursday. He's starting on Sunday. And the team's not great, but he's played reasonably well. The team has been serviceable, right? There was talk
scrappy
about maybe one of the worst teams ever, just based on some of the salary cap issues they had to endure on offseason, the way the quarterback situation was playing out, dysfunction in the front office. I mean, you're not looking like a team who knows what's going on when you bring a quarterback in the Thursday before the season and you go, actually, he's the best guy we got. That's a bad starting sign. Yeah. And so to have that team, sitting, they're at 1-6, like it's not good.
They're where we expected them to be, but they're not getting their ass whipped every week.
No, and they're reasonably in games. They're scoring points, and Dobbs doesn't look atrocious. Now, Dobbs doesn't look great. Is Dobbs putting pressure on Kyler Murray? No, but is this team with Kyler Murray playing quarterback that much better? You sort of have to start asking yourself that question. Same thing in New York. Is Tyrod Taylor taking the barn doors off? No. But he's playing reasonably well. The team got a win. They lost last week, but looked competitive against a good team. And so if you're a Giants fan, you've got Danny Dimes sitting. Certainly that was not the plan. Taylor was in there to have a qualified backup in case you needed him. He's doing that. But the team struggled so much with Danny playing quarterback. Does he start to say, again, maybe because the quarterback's playing well, maybe not. But if the team's having more success than we were expecting them to at this point, is there some point at which you say, maybe we'll just let it ride? We talk about those two.
Yeah. I think, excuse me, I think the Danny Dimes situation, maybe I'll touch on that first. Tyrod, the good thing about Tyrod, if you're a Giants fan, right, and even when you signed him, is he's one of these, he's backup with a capital B, right? Like he is Mr. Backup. He's
and been great at it for a long time.
Yep. He's backed up in 5 or 6 different teams. I think at this stage, he can get you out of a couple of games. He can play some good football. He's got a good arm. He's mobile. He's somewhat dangerous as a starter in a limited fashion, right? Yeah. He's a great guy to have on your roster as long as you don't think he's going to play 17 games. Danny Dimes being injured and the Giants being terrible for the duration of his starting, tenure this year, I don't know how related his play and the team sucking are. Like, I know he hasn't been very good and the offense was very, very unproductive. I do feel a little bit like when the QB goes down, everyone loosens up a bit because they feel like they've got an excuse to do whatever they want because, well, the guy's not starting anymore. And right. I think Tyrod is a bit more fearless with the ball. Danny Dimes has been hit a lot. He's a little bit conservative. He's not been throwing it down the field as much. His legs and mobility last season was such an asset because at least sometimes they would push the ball down the field. Maybe Darius Slayton, running those go routes that he has hit him on quite a lot. They added speed in the offseason. I thought that would be the big change. Like Paris Campbell comes over. He's not even really playing. Waller finally had a good game this week. Danny Dimes taken a lot of hits, and I think it's made him more conservative in how he plays. So with Tyrod, he's going deep to Jalen Hyatt. He's throwing it in the seam to Darren Waller because for him, it's like, listen, I get to play, so I'm just going to grip it and rip it. I mean, a stat that I saw, which I thought was interesting on this note, bears this out, is PFF, Pro Football Focus, charts this big time throws concept, right? Which is, it's classify things as a big time throw, tight window, difficult pass, more risky, basically, but you completed it. Tyrod, since 2022, has 6 of them on 88 attempts, and Daniel Jones has 8 on 623 attempts. So Tyrod's a bit more of a risk taker, and when that works, that's going to be great. And when it doesn't work, it's going to be pick 6, or it's going to be a disaster. Yeah. So I think some of it's a little bit lightning in a bottle. Like, you can get a couple of good games out of Tyrod, but ultimately he's never proven himself to be a good NFL starter for a long period of time. With the Giants, in terms of if they flip the script, I think the only way that happens is if the team continues to lose games. I know they won at the weekend, but if they lose a lot more games and Daniel Jones's injury is severe enough that it's like a shut him down for the season situation. But to be honest, I very much doubt there's even a risk of that happening because he's not played great. Even if he comes in and you've lost 10 games by week 14 or 15, bring him back, get him some reps before the end of the season, make sure he's comfortable, just get him settled a bit more. And then you come back next year because you've already paid him, so he's going to come back again. And you can make a decision then. Cardinals side, sorry, go ahead. I don't know if you want to say anything else on the Giants.
No, all I was going to say on Danny Dimes is a unique spot because there really is a bit of an out in his contract after year 2. So he's going to be back next year, but maybe not the year after. And you look at the contract and you look at what the dead cap would look like and you go, he really needs to have a good year between now and then. And I think they're going to give him every opportunity to do that. To your point, Tyrod Taylor, it's funny. I coach 10 and 11-year-old flag football. And one of the things you hear when you coach 10 and 11-year-old flag football is 10 and 11-year-old reasoning. And we're near enough New York that we get a lot of Giants fans out here on my teams. And they're all talking about how Danny Dimes is washed. He's always been terrible. They should have just signed Taylor to be the starter. And all that money they gave Danny Dimes was worthless. And listen, he signed for $40 million a year. He's not playing at $40 million a year level. He didn't sign for $58 million a year. He didn't sign for $52 million a year. He took a discount. He understood what he had. They didn't sign him for guaranteed money forever. They didn't sign him for 4 years forever. I think the team is unfairly flogged for this contract a little bit. I've always been a Danny Dimes supporter anyway, so I'm sure I'm
offensive
biased.
Line has been bad as well. He's been taking a lot of hits.
The team's been bad. I mean, and like one of the things we don't talk about is Saquon's been back for Tyrod. He wasn't there for Danny. And so there's a lot going on in that particular situation. Obviously, the backup comes back in and gets a win, comes back in and the team looks competent. There are fans who start going, I guess we got to go with this guy. That's not. I see it like
New York. Especially in New York.
It takes about 1 minute. So yeah, if he starts making those big time throws and they turn into big time picks instead of big time plays, we'll all of a sudden be back on the where's that conservative Danny Dimes guy who doesn't throw the ball into trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that one. I'll take just 3 seconds on Carolina, or not Carolina, the Cardinals.
Arizona. Yeah.
Kyler Murray is an electric athlete. And I have always believed that teams, head coaches get drunk on electric athletes. And you go, oh, God, I don't care if he can throw the ball. You see that guy? We'll figure it out. We can teach him the mechanics. We can fix this guy, whoever he is, whatever it is, we can fix this because it's worth it. Because my God, have you seen the electricity this guy as an athlete? Number one, he's been hurt a lot, and the injuries eventually add up to a guy who's an electric athlete. They just do, and he's not getting any younger. No, he's not old by any means, but he's add also, injuries to age.
He's also tiny. That's the bigger issue, right? He's one of the smallest guys in the league starting at the position, which means you get injuries plus a small body type, it's trouble.
Yeah. And so I think it's a little different in Arizona, where unlike Cleveland, where you got a guy signed for the next 5 years, unlike New York, where you got a guy signed for the next 4 years who you haven't had significant injury trouble with. You may or may not love him at the end of the day, but you're not necessarily looking for the next guy. When Arizona was going into this offseason, they were considering the possibility they might be looking for the next guy. And when you bring in a guy like Dobbs, right, more of a veteran, he's been a couple of places, he's started games, he knows what he's doing. You're not looking for a guy who's going to be your quarterback for the next 10 years, right? I don't think they were expecting a Geno Smith level, wake up and lead the team to the playoffs. But you're looking for a guy who can maybe shepherd you through on a relatively team-friendly contract until you can get out from underneath all that money you pay like Kyler Murray and bring in the next guy. And I think while the team success has not been there, and they're a terrible football team, his play has been sufficient enough. He's, he had quarterback rating in the 80s. He had a couple games over 100. His play has been okay. Their one wins against Dallas, who of course, didn't play a great game. They blew an
enormous lead against the Giants. They should have won that game, and they didn't.
They should have won that game in the fourth quarter, absolutely. And you've seen some other games where they were competitive, and they've scored some points. It's not like we're talking every week about how putrid the Cardinals are in a way you might have thought we would be at this point. They have nothing in the running game. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown is their number one receiver right now. The team is just no talent.
It's starved of talent. Yeah, starved of talent.
And so the fact that they're doing anything, he's 62% completion, which isn't bad, frankly. He's still 2-to-1 touchdowns to interceptions. He's only given up 15 sacks, which, you compare to some of these other guys who are getting sacked 6 times a game.
Yeah.
And his rating's reasonable on a bad team that's being asked to throw a lot because they're down a lot. So, I think it's a little bit of I say it's a little bit. It's completely different, right? There's some similarities, but at the end of the day, it's a completely different situation, and every team is. But I can see Josh Dobbs being the guy who shepherds this for them. Put all that in the bucket, and if Kyler Murray is healthy, he's going to get a chance to start because they've just invested too much money in him not to.
Yeah.
But if Kyler Murray comes in and plays like Kyler Murray was playing before he got hurt, we're going right back to letting Josh Dobbs man this thing and trying to cut our losses with the Kyler Murray contract, I believe.
Yeah, I certainly think it's a possibility. I think there's a couple of things I'd just add on Kyler. I think you covered it well. One is he's the last guy's guy, which I always think puts you in a risky position as a quarterback, right? He was a Cliff Kingsbury guy. He was a Steve Keim guy. You got Monty Ossenfort's come in. You got Gannon's come in. He's not wedded. They're not wedded to this guy. And even if they cut him and take an enormous cap, they say, listen, the other guy effed up.
Wasn't my fault.
Cleaning up the mess. Yeah, it wasn't my fault. So I think that gives them a pass if they do decide to go that route. The second thing is the injury sustained is severe, right? I know they're not, knee tears aren't what they once were, where we'd be saying, maybe, career-ender type stuff. But he is on the smaller side. Like I say, electric athlete. He's got a great arm. He's got all the tools apart from the fact that he's 5'8". So, you worry about, do you lose some of the athleticism? And if you lose some of the athleticism, can he play from the pocket? No, not really. At that size, it's just physically not possible. You can't see over the line. I know people used to say that about Drew Brees, but there's Drew Brees and there's Kyler Murray. So you want to get him outside the pocket and on the move. That's why he's valuable. So I think those two things play a part, and I think it gives you an excuse because the team's terrible to say we're not going to bother bringing him back this year at all, and just say we'll wait till the off season. If the team stinks, fine. And I'd say there's two ways to look at it, right? Depending on if you're pro or anti Kyler Murray. One is you say, what's the point wheeling him out, getting him hurt? Because why waste snaps? He's going to go out there and take snaps, be in harm's way. We've given him all this money. We may as well just shelve him for the year. And the flip side is similar to what you said about Deshaun Watson. Does it give us a convenient excuse to just let Josh Dobbs ride it out for the year? Like you say, he's not played badly. He's running really well, which is something I've not seen from him in the past. Certainly, he's giving us what we want, which is competitive games, which we're losing. if you're a crappy team, that's exactly what you want. You don't want the team to get beat 40-0 every week. It's just the fans get disinterested.
The players
get disinterested. These guys are competing every week. Yeah, they're losing games because the other teams are better than them. That's just a fact. But Josh Dobbs gives you that battling mentality. And the interesting thing will be where they end up picking. Because if they're in a position coming into next year where they're thinking they can get one of these top quarterbacks that's coming out, whether that's Penix, whether that's Drake May, whether that's Caleb Williams, whatever, however it ends up shaking out, another guy comes through late in the season, whatever. If Arizona's in a position to pick a top quarterback, that will obviously be the proof. The proof will be in the pudding at that point, right? So it'll be interesting to see, because if you keep Josh Dobbs, the likelihood is you would think they'll win fewer games. So either that gives you the ability to draft the next guy, or pull a Bears, trade a top pick for $1 trillion assets and try and believe in Kyler that way. So I think interesting to see how it shakes out, but I certainly agree with you. I don't think Kyler Murray's hold on that starting job is a stranglehold for the foreseeable future. I think he's got some proven to do one way or another, and it'll be interesting to see how it ends up shaking out, if he even plays this year.
Yeah, if they cut him in the offseason, his cap hit is only $30 million worse than if they don't cut him. So $50 million if he's on the roster, $81 million if he's not on the roster. Though I used to think that stuff mattered. I'm starting to think the teams figure out a way. There are already people talking about maybe the Russell Wilson contract, they can get out of that. Maybe they can get out of the Kyler Murray contract. Maybe they can get out of the Deshaun Watson contract. I don't understand. Add years on the end, amortize signing, put them a full signing bonus, amortize it over longer. I don't know. But continuously restructure the contract after he's gone. I mean, there's a lot of people hypothesizing a lot of things. The NFL has not normally been at the forefront of contract structuring, though it's changed in the last 5 or 6 years. So it'd be interested to see how that works. But anyhow.
Just one last thing just to say, Arizona currently projected to be, if the season ended today, which it doesn't, they'd be picking second. Yep. So bear that in mind.
Yeah, behind another team. No, we won't be talking about the Panthers today. But, looking at another team like the Giants, whose starter was struggling a bit, and now have had an injury and they're playing with the backup. Going out to the formerly Oakland, currently Las Vegas Raiders, similar in that they signed him to a big contract. So kind of like Danny Dimes in that way. The team underperformed. I think Jimmy underperformed more than Danny did. I speak about these guys like they're my best friends. But
Jimmy and Danny, it sounds
Jimmy,
like the cast,
Jimmy and Danny
the cast
and Joey
of Grease.
and Sally and all those folks. I think if you're a Raiders fan, you did not get what you were hoping for out of Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Giants fans haven't got what they want out of Danny Dimes either. But I think it's a little bit of a different thing. He was supposed to sort of come in and be the hero, coming from San Francisco in an offense where the offense performed very well with him at quarterback. Whether or not he was performing particularly well is debatable, I think. Certainly there have been debates about it. Where are you on Garoppolo and his erstwhile backup?
Yeah, I did think when this signing happened, it seemed like every single person in the NFL, I guess, universe had the same reaction, which was a bit like, I don't know. And it's kind of borne out that way. Like you say, he's injured, so fine. And to be honest, like we talked about a lot about backups, Brian Hoyer is not the answer. Aiden O'Connell, maybe.
Definitely. Stop it.
He's a rookie. You never know, right? You always want to say.
I'll tell you what, his first opportunity, it didn't look good.
It's tough. I mean, you're a late round rookie for a reason, right? There's a reason you can go the first couple rounds. So
Brock Purdy.
But James Garoppolo is, at best, you're hoping for, like you say, the Niners iteration when he was good, when he was firing. Because when he went to San Francisco, it wasn't the Death Star of offense that it is right now, right? Like he didn't have Christian McCaffrey. Every other player was younger. Ayuk wasn't the Ayuk that he is today. They didn't have Trent Williams when he was first there. That blah, 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 blah. So there have been examples of Jimmy Garoppolo playing well outside of just having like the all-pro, supporting cast. Point being, I think with the Raiders was he going to lift the team above where they already were with Derek Carr? We did the preseason previews. We spoke about the Raiders. I was like, the Raiders aren't going to get any better if swapping Derek Carr for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like they're not that different. Maybe Derek Carr's a bit better. So, although this season maybe not. But I just felt like there was no obvious answer for who was going to start for this team. because they got rid of Derek Carr, and then the music stopped and they needed someone to sit in the chair, and Josh McDaniels went, I know that guy, and we'll go and get him. And I feel like that's what's unfortunately happened. They are paying him a fair chunk of change. It's not the chunk of change that they're paying, someone's paying Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson. So it's not franchise destroying. But I would be quite surprised if the Raiders aren't in the quarterback market in the offseason. I would also not be surprised if they're in the coaching market. So I feel like there is a hard reset coming in Vegas. Davis has put a lot of effort into moving the team there. Sparkly new stadium, hosting Super Bowl. It's a huge media market. You want to capitalize on that by having a good team. I know all NFL owners want to win, but I feel like there's some extra pressure just given the surrounds. You don't want to have Jimmy G picks being advertised on the Sphere come the offseason, which I feel like is a likelihood. Someone will pay at some point to have fire the coach on the Sphere. That's one of my predictions.
I can't wait.
Las Vegas.
I cannot wait. I love the Sphere, by the way. I'm a huge
big
fan of the Sphere.
I'm looking forward to seeing it in person at some stage, but I think some lunatic Raiders fan is going to pay the $300,000 I think it is a day to have Fire McDaniels put on it or something, which will be fantastic. But I just feel like it was kind of a half-hearted attempt in the direction of resetting the team without really resetting the team that much. And the only sliver of hope I would guess for Raiders fans who were disenchanted with the move was, hey, Josh McDaniels coached this guy, and when he was in New England, he looked pretty good, and when he was in San Francisco at times, ... Jimmy G is not a transformative quarterback, and this is a team that doesn't have enough probably around him to remove the need to have one.
Yep.
So as far as where they go from here, when Jimmy G comes back, will he play? Yes, I think he will play.
Uh-huh.
Will it make a blind bit of difference to the team's prospects? I don't think so. Will it make much difference to their off-season plans? I don't think that either. So I feel like with the Raiders, it's just kind of almost into playing out the string mode, even in week 7 or 8.
Yeah, no, I think the reason he'll play when he comes back is because of the way they structured his contract. There's an easy out after 2024, but even after 2023, there's no additional cap hit to cut him than there is to keep him. It's even money.
And he's a good backup. He's a great backup to have. San Francisco had him as a backup for ages.
That's right. And at $28 million is his cap hit next year, whether he plays or doesn't play. There's no incentive to run him out of town necessarily. However, it's certainly an incentive to figure out what you have. And I think Vegas ran into the same thing. Teams do it every year. You fire your coach on Black Monday. Then you interview a bunch of people and no one wants the job. And you go, I got to have a coach. I need a coach. And you end up with a coach who's not as good as the one you fired because you were mad at your coach and you need a different one. This isn't working. We need something different. But you don't stop to figure out, okay, well, what's out there? And there's some bro code against interviewing before you fired the guy. I don't know. I mean, like in the real world, I interview for jobs that I haven't vacated before. Because you want to know what you can get. If you can get something better, you may make a move you wouldn't move otherwise. And I think that's what happened. You got rid of Derek Carr because it just wasn't working. One of the funniest storylines of all time, right? They ran him out of town, said don't come back in the building, and then he ended up back in the building as a Pro Bowl quarterback because everyone's a Pro Bowl quarterback. You were so bad you made the Pro Bowl. Get out of here. But, they ended up with a quarterback who's worse than the one they had. And if you look at what's happening in San Francisco and you talk about how good that offense is and how it didn't matter who was playing quarterback for them, how you interpreted that to mean I should go get one of their quarterbacks isn't clear to me. I was a little bit higher on Jimmy Garoppolo than a lot of people were this offseason, mostly because I like to play contrarian views because whatever everyone thinks is going to happen often isn't what happens. And so that's sort of my style. But, this is one of those that if you just look at the brass tacks of it, you did not go get what you needed if you were the Vegas Raiders. And to their credit, it's not like that guy was out there and they just didn't go get him. There just wasn't a guy out there to go get, and they ended up where they are. So looking across the field, the Las Vegas Raiders lost this weekend to a team that doesn't win very often in the Chicago Bears. And before we talk about the major headline here and, of course, the topic of today's pod, the kid went 21 of 29 for $162 and a touchdown and only one sack. Now, 162 yards on 30 pass attempts, not great. But everything else about that was pretty stinking good for our Jonas Gray Memorial Player of the Week. Luke, do you want to maybe take that first, and then we'll talk about how it affects the team and their plans?
Yeah, for sure. No, you set me up nicely. Yeah, Tyson Bagent, quarterback, Chicago Bears, is this week's Jonas Gray Memorial Player of the Week.
Twas there ever a fit?
Yes, I mean this is a great story. For those unfamiliar, Jonas Gray Player of the Week is someone who comes out of the clear blue sky, delivers a great performance. You never heard of the guy. Unlike Jonas Gray, whose career is memorialized by the title of this award. He is not dead, but his career very much is over. We hope that these guys go on and have great careers, make the Hall of Fame, do something spectacular. We're pro Jonas Gray Memorial Players of the Week. Tyson Bagent, the most recent. As you mentioned, only 2.1 air yards per attempt in this game, so it wasn't exactly lighting the scoreboard up, but they got the win. It's a team that has not won much the last couple of years. Tim, he's 23 years old. He's 6'3", 213 pounds. He's an undrafted rookie from Shepherd University. Do you have any idea where Shepherd is?
How did I not look this up beforehand? It sounds like one of those random schools in California, but no, I don't know.
It's in West Virginia.
Just like I said, California.
Yeah, so Shepherd University. Go Rams. Go Rams.
The Rams. Okay.
Yeah. So Tyson Bagent, interesting story. This guy, we always like to dig a little bit into the background of our Jonas Gray Players of the Week. He's from West Virginia originally, a town called Martinsburg, which I'm not familiar with. You're near enough. You grew up in Kentucky, so it's near enough. I don't know if you know where Martinsburg, West Virginia is.
No.
Okay. His dad.
I'm sure I've driven through it.
His dad, Travis Bagent, was a professional arm wrestler.
I did hear this.
Who won 28 world titles in arm wrestling and is considered on the Mount Rushmore of, and he himself has said.
While we're on the arm wrestling thing, one of the cool things I learned about professional arm. Oh, I might spoil your fact here.
No, I was just going to say, of the 28 world titles.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, 17 left-handed, 11 right, if you were curious.
And they're different. They're different titles. There's a left-handed title and a right-handed title, and I just love it.
In my head, the trophy's just an arm doing this, but it's the left arm or the right, depending on which one you win.
Well, and if you win them both, you can put them on the mantle opposing one another.
But yeah, the Bagents have got some form here because his grandfather, Tyson Bagent's grandfather, opened a bar called the Big Arm Bar and Grill, which had 8 arm wrestling tables in it. And then people started to congregate there to have these championships, and that's how do you think you breed
a national championship arm wrestler?
A world champion.
Excuse me.
They have world championships, and he's won them. So he arm
Luke,
wrestler.
have you properly? I know you're. This is a hot button topic for you when people call these world championships that aren't necessarily international. Have we validated the internationalness of the field?
There is.
It feels like an American thing, to be honest.
It's true, but I can tell you that the most he ever won, his father, in one tournament was in Moldova, and he won 140 grand for winning that tournament.
What?
For winning an arm wrestling tournament. Yeah, good job, Travis. So anyway. Strength of arm is not something that the Bagents struggle with. Tyson, who of course is the subject of this Jonas Gray Player of the Week profile, not his father.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you real quick, but just to fact check myself.
Sure.
The world arm wrestling champion for the last 30 years has been anyone other than an American. So apparently not an American thing. The Romanians, very good. The Bulgarians, very good. Ukrainians, that kind of...
I'll be honest. I didn't do a huge amount of research into the professional arm wrestling ranks, but anyway, his dad is good at arm wrestling. That'll do.
Yeah.
Tyson went to Martinsburg High School. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior for the state of West Virginia. 41 touchdowns. He won 2 state championships. They won 28 consecutive games, which is pretty cool. And his younger brother is now the quarterback there, Ezra. So good for you. Good for you, Bagents.
You too can start in the NFL and win a game.
And if it doesn't work out, I guess you can go on wrestle some Romanian guys. But despite his excellent high school career, he wasn't really recruited much. That was old Tyson. Only had 2 FCS offers, which were from Albany and somewhere called Robert Morris. I have no idea.
You don't know Robert Morris? Oh, that's an NCAA tournament occasional team. Yeah, Robert Morris University. Yeah.
But he turned them both down and he went to Shepherd. There's some roots there in West Virginia for the Bagents. Both of his parents went to Shepherd as well. So again, keeping it in the family here. Shepherd is in Shepherdstown, West Virginia.
Of course.
Only has 3,000 students. So not a huge enrollment list. Despite being in West Virginia, they play in something called the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. So search me as to why. But Tyson took Division 2, which is where Shepherd played, by storm. He took the starting job as a freshman, and he was there for 5 years. He had the COVID year, which was vacated, so he stayed for an extra year. He won the Harlan Hill Trophy, which is the D2 Heisman, in 2021. He was third place in 2022. He was starting, was putting up stats, and after 2021, Tim, he thought maybe it's time for a change. The transfer portal is now a big factor of life in college athletics. He put his name in there, got some interest from D1 schools, including Maryland, which apparently led the pack in terms of convincing him to maybe move on from his hometown university, or close to. But he decided to stay because he would have needed to take extra classes if he went to Maryland in order to graduate. So, can understand that. However, he only needed at Shepherd to do something called a weightlifting internship to graduate. I don't know how that's relevant to academia, but I did think it was interesting. Anyway, and scouts are apparently already told Tyson that he was on the radar of the NFL, so he decided to stay put. Tim, his college statistics are pretty mind-blowing. He's the NCAA Division II record holder for completions and yards, 1,400 completions, 27,034 passing yards in his collegiate career, the most in the history of D2. He also threw 159 touchdowns, which is the record across the entire NCAA. So he's thrown more touchdowns in college football than anyone ever.
Is that a real stat?
That's a real stat. 159 touchdowns, Tim. That's a lot of touchdowns.
Jesus.
He won 2 Pennsylvania Athletic Conference East championships, but they lost twice in the D2 semis for the national title. Once was to Ferris State, and the other was to one of my favorite college names in the entire country, which is the Colorado School of Mines.
Ooh, yes, the Colorado School of Mines.
Or go Ore Diggers. That's one of the great college football nicknames. And their quarterback, actually, interestingly, won the Harlan Hill Trophy. So Tyson Bagent won it 2021, and then John Matocha, who's the Colorado School of Mines quarterback, won it in 2022. So one to watch maybe for Jonas Gray, Players of the Week in future.
Learning a lot about Division II football this week.
One other nugget, which is maybe just more for you and I than anyone else, but do you want to know who coached at the Colorado School of Mines at one time in the 1930s? Little guy called Dutch Clark, Tim. Member of the NFL 100.
NFL 100, Dutch Clark,
NFL 100.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a running back that Tim and I had never heard of. And when
Too bad we didn't have a podcast. So
trying to
Luke
predict
and
the
I,
NFL 100.
Back in the NFL 100, one of the things that got us thinking about doing this, really, we got together and we each put together our own NFL 100 once we knew how many players were at each position.
Mixed success, I would say.
Yeah, did pretty well. There were some old dudes in there that we were like, I'm sorry, who?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there were players that were at positions you were like, I'm sorry, I mean, he is quarterback, but also punter, kicker, and linebacker. So where were you going to put him? But, yeah, no, it was a good time. But anyhow, so if we bring it back to the NFL for a minute, he started a game for the Chicago Bears. And
he did.
The Chicago Bears are probably, in my mind, the most in flux of the organizations we've discussed so far. The team is it's not good. You and I both predicted they might be good this year. Justin Fields has had moments where he looks electric. He's had moments where he doesn't. The offensive line around him not good. But to see a D2 quarterback effectively off the street.
Undrafted free agent. He's been in the building, but he's not.
Yeah, but I mean, did you see him in the preseason and go, this guy?
Yeah. I mean, he was behind Nathan Peterman, right? So that does tell you.
And Nathan Peterman, man, his first start did not look like Tyler Bagent's. And Secret Bagent Man has got to be the worst nickname in the NFL history. By the way, that can't
terrible.
last. It's got to stop.
Oh dear.
But anyhow, Justin Fields didn't deliver on the promise in the starts he got at the beginning of the season, and this is a team much like San Francisco last year, who may be looking at a guy going, "Listen, if we're going to have to move on." Having someone who can play the spot here, maybe he turns into Brock Purdy's ceiling. Maybe he doesn't. But at least you've got a guy, Justin Fields, obviously not getting it done in the way that I hoped he would. A lot of people hoped he would. I can see if Tyler Bagent has more than one good game, an opportunity to come take a job here that probably doesn't exist for most of these other quarterbacks. Thoughts?
I think you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why.
That's why we have a podcast.
No, like I said at the top, before I gave Tyson Bagent the Jonas Gray Memorial Teaspoon this week, I said he averaged 2.1 yards per attempt. That really isn't going to win you many games.
Won him this one.
Won him this one. Didn't turn the ball over. That's great. The reason I would
ran three times for 24 yards. Don't shortchange the kid.
No, I'm not shortchanging him, and more power to him. What I would say with Justin Fields is, and we actually spoke about this after I think week 3 or 4, when Fields was looking jumpy, he became kind of a bit of a punching bag in the NFL media kind of circles. This guy sucks, he can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. Hesitant, not getting the ball out, making bad decisions, etc. He then went on a 2-game stretch against Denver. Okay, Denver aren't very good, and they lost the game. But then against Washington in the primetime game, where against Denver, he was 80% completions for 335 yards and 4 touchdowns. And okay, yes, I know I understand that they lost the game on the back of a turnover at the end, but he also threw 4 touchdowns at an 80% completion percentage, which is not easy to do at the NFL level. And against Washington, sure, completion percentage wasn't that high, but he also threw another 4 touchdowns, and they won the game 40-20. So I think with Fields, if he had played those 2 games as badly as he had the first couple, there would be a legitimate conversation to be had around this. There is really no upside to benching Justin Fields for Tyson Bagent. The evaluation of Tyson Bagent is unlikely to change your position on Justin Fields, in my opinion. Now, Fields is injured and he's not going to play this week either, has already been announced. So you're going to get another game of the secret Bagent or T-Bag, as I saw someone put in.
Oh, God, no.
But yeah, you're going to get another look at the guy. There is no question, even if you look at a very small sample size, I've never watched Shepherd football, so forgive me if you're out there a D2 fan. There is no universe in which Tyson Bagent has as much talent as Justin Fields. None. Justin Fields has been electric, as you say, at times, and he's been bad at times. I think the trajectory of this season makes the decision easier. If his first 2 games were amazing and his next 3 games were terrible and then he got hurt, it would change. And maybe there's a discussion. Justin Fields is going to come back. Justin Fields is going to start. That's what should happen. There is no good argument to not doing that. And if he stinks it out for 3 or 4 or 5 games, the Bears suck. They're not going anywhere. Maybe you throw the kid in and have a look. The idea to me that Justin Fields is going to get benched for Tyson Bagent is kind of laughable, unless there is something behind the scenes in terms of the coaches hate him or something like that. Because you don't bench a guy who threw 8 touchdowns in 2 games for a guy who threw 1 touchdown in 1 game because you were playing a crappy team and you beat them.
To be very clear, I am not suggesting that that Mr. Bagent's secret Bagent man's performance in this game is enough to dethrone Justin Fields.
Oh, I'm saying the concept, not you're saying that. I'm saying that has been floated. I have seen that float. We should start this other guy. It's like, no, you shouldn't.
But Justin Fields is on year 3 of a 4-year deal.
Yep.
Justin Fields is only due $6 million next year.
Yep.
Justin Fields has not gotten it done. And so, if Tyler Bagent comes out and plays another good game of football next week and the team wins, and Tyler Bagent comes out and plays a 3rd game of football.
Tyson Bagent. I should just make sure you
Tyson, Tyler, Travis. Props. Well, what's his dad's Travis, right? There's too many T names.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of T names.
Tyson.
Yeah.
I didn't know this guy was Tyson Bagent. My apologies to Tyson and his family. The Jonas Gray Memorial Player of the Week. Played well enough to win a game. If he plays well enough to win next week and well enough to win the week after, at some point, I think it behooves you to see what this kid can do. Clearly, they didn't open up the playbook for him last week. I don't think they're going to open up the playbook for him next week. But if you can start putting a little bit more in and he's growing, all I said and what I want to make clear, what I believe, is it's possible that Tyson can steal a job here in the way I don't think it's possible that a lot of these other guys are going to steal a job.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's possible. I wouldn't say it's likely. I also would say it's kind of harsh on Fields if that's the case, but it's a cold world.
Well, you talked about it being him, being the last guy's guy.
Yeah. Well, also the Bears you mentioned, 3 years into the Justin Fields era, if you want to call it that. They're currently picking first and they're picking third. So the Carolina Panthers have the top overall pick, but they traded it to the Bears as part of the deal to go up and get Bryce Young. So if any team is going to be in a position to draft a quarterback, it's the Bears. Even if they win a bunch more games and Carolina wins a bunch more games, they got 2 first-round picks. 2 first-round picks can move you up a few slots if you want to do that. So yeah, there's certainly the possibility that Tyson Bagent comes in and plays another good game or blows the doors off and looks amazing and they make a change. I don't think it's very likely. I also perhaps am clinging a little bit to the fact that I think Justin Fields there is a good player in there and it's just needs to come out.
Hey, we both believe that. All I meant earlier, by the way, by the last guy's guy, is I think Eberflus has a hard time keeping his job this year if they don't win a bunch of games.
I agree with that as well.
And if you're going to have a new guy out there, he's going to want to get his own guy. And I think it is not impossible that Eberflus gets a diktat from on high that it's time to see what some of the other guys in the building have.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's better to do it a year early than a year late, as Belichick always said.
There you go. All right, last quarterback. I don't think we're going to spend any time on this at all. This is the least exciting of all of them. Yeah. Obviously, unfortunate injury-riddled rookie season. I would love to say completely unpredictable, but I think perhaps easily predicted, given the way the man is built and the way he plays the position. In Indianapolis, Mr. Richardson, not healthy. His backup in there playing. I mean, obviously, when he's healthy, he's the starter. Any thoughts there on Indianapolis?
Yeah, no, not really. Not beyond what you said. Anthony Richardson, like you said, shame, some electric flashes, got a concussion, came back, some electric flashes, shoulder injury, probably done for the season. It's just time to think about next year if you're a Colts fan. Minshew Mania is great for 2-3 weeks. It's like a crap version of Fitzmagic, is how I always think of it. He can come in, we said about Tyrod, there's a few guys like this. He can get you through a few games. He can probably get you through a season and you'll be respectable. I mean, like you say, they scored 38 points and only lost the game really on some horrific officiating decisions near the end of that game. They beat the Titans last week with Minshew. He's shown he can play at this level. He's never shown he can be a legit starter, I don't think. He's shown he's a very good upper echelon backup to low-end starter. That's fine. That's why they brought him in, because Richardson might have gotten hurt. Richardson's gotten hurt. Once Richardson comes back in probably 2024, he will start week 1 and they will roll it back. And in the meantime, maybe Minshew signs a deal somewhere else to get some more starter reps for the front end of next season for a team looking to ease in a rookie. Sure. Or maybe stays in Indianapolis and just says, hey, I've got a good chance of playing. He's not that old for a guy who's a backup either, so he can hang around. He's got plenty of career in front of him. But yeah, the Minshew experience lasts as long as it lasts, and then you move back to Anthony Richardson and do the evaluation.
Yeah, and then so maybe to give Indianapolis fans a little bit more talk time here, obviously the concussion happened, now the shoulder injury happened. It's too early. It's his rookie season. He's had 2 injuries. A lot of guys get hurt their rookie season, come back, and are fine. But at what point do you worry, or are you already worried, about Anthony Richardson and his durability and his viability as a starting quarterback in the league, the way he plays? Obviously, when healthy, unbelievably electric, good arm, great legs.
The best athlete I've ever seen at quarterback, ever.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But how, in your mind, at what point do you start going, it doesn't matter how good he is, he's never going to be able to stay on the field?
Yeah, I think if he comes back next year and you start to see injuries, I mean, also he's had an injury to his throwing shoulder, which always scares the hell out of you. I don't care how old you are. The issue with him will be the Cam Newton issue, you would think, or the Josh Allen. I think that is on the way if it's not already starting, which is you are a huge guy, you take a lot of huge hits, and that it doesn't matter how big you are, at some point it stops being doable. It ages you very quick. So he's going to have to come back and probably be a little bit more a little bit more discerning about how he plays.
Yeah, it's hard to change the way you play, though.
You have to give him at least next year.
Yeah.
Because this could just be bad luck, right? Some guys, like you say, get injured straight off the bat. They never miss a game ever again. It can just be completely random. So for sure, you have it in the back of your mind if you're the Colts. Doesn't change your plan. Doesn't change 2024. If he has another season-ending injury or starts having concussions or something like that, then you look beyond.
Potentially different. Yep.
I think you're a ways away from that decision.
No, I mean, I think that's right. I think about even later in his career. You think about Tua last year, how many people were writing off Tua's career. Guy's got a glass jaw. Every time he gets hit, he's getting a concussion. It's really becoming clear how much malpractice it was to put him back in as quickly as they did last year.
You don't want to end up with a Robert Griffin III situation either, right? Where if you
right.
put the guy back in too soon, and basically his career is ended by the injury, which you could have prevented if you just benched him when you should have.
Yep, no, 100%. All right, Luke, a couple of quick hitters, if I can, around the NFL. Several teams have disappointed this year, and several teams have surprised to the upside. Give me your most disappointing team and your most surprising team to the upside, and whether or not you think it is a flash in the pan for weeks 1 through 7, or if it's got some staying power.
Oh, that's a good question. Most disappointing. I find it hard to look beyond the Titans, to be honest, just because I'm a fan of them. But I will not say the Titans, just in the interest of balance. I would say the most disappointing team is probably. Ooh, this is tough because I didn't have time to prep. I don't know. I didn't have the question before.
I very quickly try not to give you the questions before.
Sprung it on me. I will go with. I'll probably say the Giants.
Okay.
Not because I thought the Giants were going to be a postseason team when we did the playoffs, the preseason previews. I was like, the Giants aren't going to be probably as good as they were last year, but to be as bad as they've been, I know they won, so let's not crap completely on the Giants after they get a win. But the manner of how they played in the early part of this season was just awful, like worst team in the NFL bad. So, okay, you've steadied the ship somewhat, starting quarterbacks out. I thought they would backslide. I did not think they would be as
40-0 in week 1 bad. Yeah.
Terrible as they have been. So I would say probably the Giants as the most bad surprising team, shocking team, if you want.
And sorry, so the second part of that question, do you think they're shockingly bad the rest of the year, or do they figure it out and get back sort of nearish 500?
I find it hard to think that they'll continue to be as bad as that because I'm not sure if that's possible. So yeah, I think they'll end up being, nearish. I would say maybe not 500 because 500 is not possible anymore. Are they going to win 3 games? No, I think they'll probably win a couple more, and they'll end up being in the kind of 6 to 8 win range.
Okay.
In the end, which isn't so bad. That's going to be my prediction. That they kind of get it right, but that only gets them so far at this stage because they put themselves behind the 8 ball.
Okay.
In terms of surprising teams, I don't think there really have been teams that I'm surprised by that have like exploded. Really, like there have been teams that surprised me and are in a better position than I thought they would be, but not because I've been wowed by them. Does that make sense?
No, I think that makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Because there's not been like a splat. We already spoke about it. We thought the Bears might be that wow. Where's this been? Kind of team. I don't necessarily think that's happened.
Does your answer change if the Lions had won this week?
I picked the Lions to win the division, so no, not really. I think they've been surprisingly good on
5-1, 6-1. You were ready to call them 6-1?
No, but at the end of the day, like I thought they would be good this year, and the way that they've been good is how I thought they would be good, which is the offense stays good, the defense gets better, which is what's happened.
Well, let me ask you this then: if not, then a team that they beat again, if the Bucks had not lost a close one this week and they were sitting at 4-2, how do you feel about that? To me, I think Tampa? I was surprised. Yeah, Tampa. Yeah,
I would say the most surprising records are in the NFC South, and that's Atlanta and Tampa. That was good. Atlanta was going to be my pick. And that's why I was kind of saying they're surprising me, but not because I think they're actually that good. Like, they're winning games. They're getting over the line. Hell, they'll probably beat the Titans on Sunday. They'll be 5-3, which is what? They're what? And they won at the weekend without Bijan Robinson touching the field, basically, because he had, I don't know, a hangover or something, whatever they said. He ended up having headaches, which they didn't know about until the day. So I'm assuming he was hungover because that'd be more fun.
God,
so I'd say Atlanta, they've had moments of maybe coming out of offensive hibernation a little bit. Ridder has had he had a 300-yard game. He was running all over the field. They really should have had the game against Tampa wrapped up much earlier than they did, but they fumbled 3 times in the red zone, which is never going to do a great...
Never going to get it.
Great service to your winning percentage. I did like that they fumbled on the 1 yard line and they fumbled touchback in the same game. I'm not sure if that's ever happened before, but I would doubt it. It was quite funny.
Fumble touchback, worst rule in the NFL, by the way.
Worst rule in the NFL. So I'd say Atlanta surprised me, but not because I think they're very good. Tampa for sure has. I picked Tampa and Atlanta to both be terrible this year. So the fact they're both in the 500-ish area does surprise me. In terms of sustainability, I would say no on both. I think that neither of them have sustainable paths to success. However, one of them is probably going to win the division. So it's the NFC South is just mad as a box of cats. So I don't know what they're going to do. Someone's going to win the division. I pick the Saints. I don't think the Saints are very good either. Someone's got to do it. So one of these teams will. But I think this could be another. We see a sub 500 team win the division.
Yep. If you had to pick the division, Luke, in the NFL that has the worst points differential, who would you suppose it is?
I would pick. I would probably pick the NFC South.
You would be correct.
Yeah.
The NFC South has 3 teams with negative point differentials, and one team with positive who has managed a grand total of positive 6. The New Orleans Saints, despite having a losing record, do have a positive point differential. Interested to see how that pans out over the rest of the year. But collectively, almost 90 points to the negative.
If you want, I'll give you a bonus shitty team if you want, just because I'll give you two
I would
surprising.
love a bonus shitty team.
It's got to be the Patriots, right? I mean, I know they won.
I was waiting
and they
for
beat
that
the
one.
Bills.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think Bill Belichick gets a win, but that is the island in the storm. They have points differential of minus 76. Listen, maybe they turn it around. I struggle to think a Belichick team can stay as bad as they have been, so maybe this is a turning point. If that was going to be a team to stabilize, I was going to say that.
I actually had a quick hitter on New England.
Oh, okay.
So New England is 2-5 on the year, but 2-1 in their division. I have read that may say something about Belichick and when he really knows a team, his ability to basically win regardless of the players that are on the field. I'm going to give you 2 questions on the Patriots. The first is, obviously you get 6 division games a year. The Patriots are through 3 of them. They've won 2. How many division games do the Patriots win in total this year? So 5 would be the max, 2 would be the min. They got 1 against each team left. They got 1 against the Jets, 1 against the Bills, 1 against the Dolphins.
I know. They've won 2. I'm going to say 3.
Okay, so you're going to give them 1 more. They have won 2 games against the entire NFL this season. They have played 7 games. They have 10 remaining. How many wins do the Patriots get in total for the rest of the season?
I'm going to go with 7.
7. All right, so you are predicting they are going to go 5-5 the rest of the way, but 1-2 in the division, which would be basically a complete reversal of how their season has gone so far. So, Luke, pro-ish on the Patriots with their 76-point negative point differential?
Do you know what? I'm going to revise that down. I'm going to revise that down. Total wins, I'll take them down to 6. I think 6 is right. 6, not 7.
I actually think they will. I'm going to go ahead. I placed a bet on this week because you can bet on anything these days. I have bet on the Patriots to win 4 games and all of them in their division. So,
wow. Nice one.
It'd be interesting to see if that comes off. I thought that was
it's definitely possible. I'm not ruling that out.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fun. Anyhow, so that's going to do it here for us on the Half Yard Line, Week 7 edition in the bag. Hope you guys enjoyed our tour to NFL backup quarterbacks. Some playing better than we anticipated. Many playing better than we anticipated. Some perhaps well enough to sneak into a job next year. Some incumbents with injuries, I would guess, a little concerned, trying to get back on the field as quick as they can and demonstrate the value that they add to their teams. It'd be interesting, one thing we didn't talk about, to see how those guys come back. And do you see a Danny Dimes taking more risks because the guy behind him is doing it with some success? If you see a Jimmy Garoppolo
could be
air it out a little bit more to try to cement their position as starters. So always intrigue in the NFL, certainly some intrigue in these quarterback quasi battles, if you want to call them that.
Skirmishes.
Yeah, but anyhow, hope you enjoyed this one this week. Until next week, do please check us out on the socials. Happy to interact with you guys midweek as we go through that process. Hit us up on the Twitter or X, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Threads. Follow us
at Half Yard Line Pod.
All those things. Follow, subscribe, like, rate, review. comment on the video on the pod. We'd be happy to interact with you guys in that way. Try to get a response to all those out there as they come in. So appreciate you guys. Hopefully we can interact during the week. Until next time, be good.
Sayonara.